Good morning, Story Trading VIPs. We got a lot to cover. It's Tuesday morning, February 21st, after President's Day weekend. Last week, we had a hot PPI, which, if you remember, caused me to go bearish on the market. Now, Friday was tricky. I was actually surprised by the strength of the market on Friday at the close, and you can see that here, right? You see that that downdraft here because of the hot PPI here Thursday afternoon into Friday. And then this morning, so we're back down this morning. Now, SPY, before I tell you the factors causing all this, look at SPY doesn't look good when it's below 20, but the weekly moving average is more important. So the 50-week moving average here, right at 400, 399. So you could, if you're a pure technical trader, you could say, hey, SPY still has a few more points to the downside. I'm not concerned, still in bull mode. However, on the QQQ, we're dipping below the 50-week moving average. But I have to say the SPY has been the more reliable indicator using that, looking at the long-term moving averages. So technically, we're still in this like bull area above the long-term moving channel. However, I did tell you, my thesis last week on why I'm kind of starting to anticipate it might break. We see TLT here dropping UUP higher. So, this is a proxy for the US dollar, where you can kind of predict that this means or associate this with higher interest rate expectations, which are not good for risk assets. So you can see now RK and Bitcoin down. That's starting to make more sense. Actually, one of the reasons I started turning bearish was like we're starting to get moves that don't make sense, which look like blow off tops, right? Like what we saw in Bitcoin last week, surging with hot PPI and UP surging really didn't make a lot of sense. And I'm like, I took that to be a warning sign. Maybe now we're getting into more of a pattern that makes sense with UP up and risk assets down. Now, before I get into some of the factors that are influencing the market, there's lots of big cap news that's influencing the market down this morning, I believe. I also just want to point out over the weekend, I saw a lot of conversation about people worried about war again. It's also because we're at this key level in the technicals, right? So people start looking for excuses. They get ultra sensitive to good news and bad news to be like, hey, is this going to be what triggers a breakout? Is this what's going to be, going to signify a top? So people are looking for excuses when they say, oh, 1 year anniversary, Biden's going to Ukraine, giving more support to Ukraine. Russia's doing like nuclear tests. Like people are starting to get worried that, we're back in this like negative atmosphere, right? We're back in this period. They're looking for like data to validate what they're already feeling, that the market is over. But so for that reason, the sentiment because of the war pangs, I just want to say the defense sector might be strong today. So we're looking at Lockheed Martin. Look at that. Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, all of these defense stocks might be plays that would work well today. And there'd be other defense stocks, either the top two, all right, you can consider. I'm not sure if TPCS would, a little microcap, go along with that sort of sentiment, but it might. Okay. So USO also, I was looking at USO as a sign of, hey, people are worried about war. Maybe oil is going to go back up. Not a strong indicator right now on oil, but you can really see that strongly in the defense stocks. Now, going back up to some of these big caps that could be influencing the major markets, Home Depot and Walmart came out with earnings that I think it was mixed for Home Depot. It was beat for Walmart, but guidance in both cases was down. And there was some pretty negative commentary, which I had posted in the room. I'm not going to be able to find the specific passages in here, but a couple of them, one was pretty alarming from the CFO, Home Depot, both basically pointing towards lower consumer demand, possibly. I think Home Depot also talked about some supply chain issues in here. So outlook missed, okay? Outlook missed on Home Depot, guidance missed on Home Depot, it missed on Walmart, and these are massive companies, obviously. Walmart, is it only $394 billion? Man, I thought it was more. $394 billion. Home Depot at $324 billion, and most certainly it has a quantitative effect on the SPY, both of those, but I think it also has a sentiment impact on the SPY. 1 second here. I just noticed I forgot changed my background. You can barely see it, but okay. So in any case, to me, this is just additional evidence on top of hot PPI that makes me think that this could be a market top. But just keep in mind, man, if we bounce strongly off that 50-week moving average of 400, you never know, right? We could just, and we'll monitor it day by day, and we'll see what people are saying, what the catalyst and sentiment might be of why it's bouncing off that 400 level. But for right now, as a story trader, I'm trying to anticipate a breakdown because of all these clues we're getting. So I actually added back again some hedge this morning in the form of shorting ARK, SARK, shorting in the FANG stocks with FNGD, and also bought some UVXY. All right, so let's see, though, if we can find some stocks that will buck the market trend. I'm not going to try to play Home Depot or Walmart because it had another wave of layoffs. Now, interesting, just so you know how market psychology works, the first wave of layoffs are always good, especially if you're in an environment of like we are now. People are worried about lower earnings and things like that. They're like, oh, you have layoffs, great, better profitability. Second wave of layoffs is bad. It's like, oh, what? You're going to lay everyone off now? You have no business, right? So this is why on the first set of layoffs, DocuSign was up sharply. I forgot the date that was. Now it's a second wave of layoffs, and we're down sharply, even though they had a pretty great report. I mean, it's up sharply since their last earnings report. But this also feeds into the sentiment, okay? DocuSign market cap, not huge compared to $13 billion compared to Home Depot and Walmart, but it is a high-profile growth name that people can be talking about that can seep into the sentiment for the day. So you have Home Depot, Walmart, DocuSign sentiment, you have war sentiment, and now you have Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse, remember we were tracking Credit Suisse? I'm like, I lived through 2008, 2009, and Lehman, right? So this is why I have Credit Suisse on my watch list, because we had all those outflows earlier this year, and the stock was like crashing. How low did it go? Well, I guess it went to like below 3, started rebounding. Now it's back below 3. And then it stabilized when the chairman came out and said, hey, the outflows have stopped. Now there's a report out this morning that the chairman is being investigated because the outflows did not stop. And in fact, the outflows were continuing when he said the outflows had stopped. All right. Well, that sounds bad. Okay. That sounds like you're trying to stop a run on the bank and you're willing to lie to stop it. Credit Suisse down 4%. This is something to watch. Again, as something that could eventually cause market contagion. If it's not Credit Suisse, it could be another company that happens with. All right, now let's maybe get to some good news. If we're going to buck the market trend, we're going to start here. Okay, here's a list of stocks that might buck the market trend today. You can see we've got lots of green on the screen right now. So Meta starts a subscription service, follows in Elon Musk's footsteps with a subscription for verification. There's also some news out this morning that's not in my feed that they are doing some sort of agreement to sell Oculus headsets into China with some partner. All right, so now we're getting a bounce, and it looks like now you can call it that it's like kind of bouncing off the 20 DMA. Now, I'm not sure that I'm going to play this today with the tape down, but it could buck the market trend. I have to tell you, my bias, and I could be wrong, I'm not sure that a verification service for Facebook or Instagram is going to be as important as a subscription verification service for Twitter. Twitter is all about sharing factual information, and you want to have credibility. Whereas, Instagram and Facebook are about entertainment. Or is average Joe going to shell out some money to get verified? I don't know. But sentiment-wise, the initial reaction is a gap up because of this, more revenue, right? Basically improving their business model, and they get recurring subscription revenue, not just ad sales. So that's why you see Meta up this morning. We'll talk to Vegas, I'm sure, about Meta, and also DraftKings. We'll get to that. Let's talk about DraftKings now, actually, because we're going to do both of these again when Vegas comes on. So DraftKings, really good earnings last week, really good report. Many upgrades this morning with price targets ranging from like $23 to $30 on DraftKings. This is down only slightly. This is a good candidate to buck the market trend today. If there's going to be a stock that does it, this could be one of them. You can see resistance here at 21.45. So that's a level that could both be a magnet and could be a place where it gets pushed back. It tried it Friday at 21.20. I'm not playing it yet, but let's see what Vegas says on that. Now, Tesla, just want to point out there was some chatter after the close Friday that they're going to make an investment in a battery company or possibly buy out a battery company called, do we have it here? SGML, lithium. It's also lithium and battery. I think they do both, lithium mining and some battery production. So that stock is up 19%. So on watch are all the other lithium companies. Here's a lithium ETF. Then you have LAC, LTHM, AMLI. I'm not playing any of them yet, but AMLI is the one I'm most familiar with. and that I may be willing to add some on a pullback because you get the added uranium spinoff of this one that's coming soon. But haven't made any moves yet. Amly on watch, possible sympathy move. But, lately it's really kind of been moving with LAC and LTHM. And I think the difference maker is going to be uranium spinoff news. So I'm not really chomping at the bit to jump into MLI. If I had a chart, I'd show it to you, but this is one that TD Ameritrade doesn't support for some reason. All right, let's get into a couple interesting things here. A few stocks that could be the top performers of the day. Talk has earnings tonight, conference call tomorrow morning. Like, I've been in this for a long time, okay? I could quadruple down after the comments on the JP Morgan conference. Those comments were all about forward-looking guidance, which they said would be talked about on the conference call tomorrow morning. So we got earnings tonight. I'm not expecting any kind of blowout with earnings tonight. I'm expecting the fireworks to come in the careful how you play this. You got this move, the 200 DMA, $1.13, by the way. That could be a place where you could do some trading. I have a big core position. If we do a event anticipation run to about 110 area, 110 to 112 area, I might take some off the table with the event anticipation run after hours after the news. I might take some off the table there, but really just talking small because I'm in for the big money on this one. I want to hear what the CEO says forward looking tomorrow morning on the conference call at 8:30 a.m. We may have to switch up at the start time of our show tomorrow morning because that's going to be a really important conference call to listen to at 8:30 tomorrow morning. Another stock that could outperform today, ASXC. This was presented by Tony last night, the potential competition to Intuitive Surgical. They're ringing the opening bell in just 20 minutes on the Amex. And then at 11:30 a.m., they have their Investor Day. Is it 11:30? Yep, 11:30 a.m. They got webcast Investor Day. So both of these can be, this stock has been up, like tripled in a month, in 2 months. So, if you look at the technicals, honestly, wow, how are you going to do this? I got to go to like a desktop to see this, but it looks like it's broken. Man, you know what? Let's see if I have time to do this. I'm going to go to my indicators, turn off my volume. It's conflicting with the prices here. Okay. So, wow, it kind of broke all these levels. Like, maybe it does have a move to as Tony was saying, his target is 3. I don't know. He might be onto something. Okay. So this is something, we're going to watch. I did get a starter position on this last week, and we'll see. I'm going to, maybe if I can, tune in to that Investor Day, or we'll listen to what Tony says. We could get some reasons and some excuses for this to take off potentially more. Now, my biggest play of the day, it's 9:14. We got to get to Vegas in like a minute. This is the only one to the long side I've bought already. MTW. I stepped in right at 7 a.m. at 14.85. Actually ended up buying a little more at 15.06. This is a earnings re-rating play, very similar to what we did with Deere last week. Okay, their earnings came in they crushed earnings, but also their guidance beat estimates. Okay, so if you go into here, let's see, February 20th. Okay, if you go into here, you'll see their guidance right here, full 2023 guidance. They're talking about earnings. It's a wide range, but 35 cents to $1.15. If you see that, 35 cents to $1.15. If you take the midpoint of that, guidance, by the way, the revenue is also much higher than analyst expectations. But if you take the midpoint of the EPS guidance, it's 23 cents higher than the midpoint of the analyst guidance. Okay, now this is how I always do it. You take that 23 cents and you multiply it by the trailing PE of 30. Okay, so if you do that, this gives you an idea of where the stock could be heading towards. Not that it's going to get there today or anything like that, but what's going to be a magnet, let's say. Talking about that way. So just lost my SMAs. So if you add $6.90, and the whole reason we do this is because we believe markets are efficient. That Friday's price was the correct price until new information came in today. So the Friday close was $14.36. You add $6.90 to it. That takes you like $21, $22, right? Now I'm going to round that down, okay? Because first of all, trailing PE seems a little bit high. Let's get rid of those blue dots of 30, right? So even if you round it down to like a 20 PE or 15 PE, you look at a chart, you see, maybe there's some psychological resistance at 20. I see some noise here at 18. So I'm going to temper my expectations. And instead of saying, oh, this is going to rapidly re-rate to 22, I'm going to say it's on the table for this to move towards 18 to 20. Okay, but you have to keep in mind, conference call at 10 a.m. and the sentiment, there's 2 things to be aware of when it comes to sentiment. right? We talked about Deere and how the sentiment, the Deere was like a perfect play Friday because you had positive sentiment not only for the stock in this, but you also had positive sentiment for the industry and the sector. But this is construction equipment. It's not agriculture construction equipment. It's construction equipment, which is more recession sensitive. And if you're going to have a recession, real estate, construction, those kind of stocks take a hit. So the sentiment for the sector, not as good. I also want to say, I don't know this stock from before. This is brand new stock to me. I just learned about this late last night. So I haven't done the history on in the past. Do they always beat? Is this a one-time beat? Deere had 2 beats in a row. And that's also very significant when it comes to sentiment and unlocking the full fundamental value, right? It takes multiple earnings in a row, multiple quarters for the doubters to become believers and say, this is a trend. This is not just an anomaly. I don't have that history here with MTW to tell you. If this is a trend, right, and if the market sees it that way, then you're much more likely to go toward those numbers I talked about, 18, 20 plus. If that history is not there with this stock, or if they have a history of being very volatile and sometimes beating, sometimes missing, then that sentiment for the stock is going to be lower and you're less likely to hit those fundamental targets. Okay. But this is my highest pick for the day, but I'm going to watch this closely. I'm going to hopefully be able to tune in to because what they say on the conference call could end up deciding. Let's say, for example, the stock moves up a buck or two. Let's say it's like 60 and 50 area, something like that. By the time the conference call comes, what they say in the conference call can determine if it pulls back or rockets towards the 1820 area. And it's going to be very sensitive. You got to have a critical eye. If you're listening to this conference call because of the macro environment we're in, if they have any doubt whatsoever, if an analyst comes in and says, well, what about, are you sure there's no issues with supply chain or demand? Like analysts are going to push them. And if they waver just a little bit, kiss $20 goodbye for today. 18 to 20 may not happen. Okay, so that's how you got to gauge sentiment. That's going to happen at 10 a.m. MTW. And that brings us to our next segment with Vegas. Good morning, Vegas. You ready to kill it today?
I hope so.
All right. Well, we had a lot to talk about. And yeah. I do want to just bring up the two that I think you do want to talk about, and then you can add Meta and DraftKings. I'm curious about Meta. We had 2 catalysts you can talk about, and DraftKings. I just saw 1 million upgraded price targets this morning. I'm wondering if you're in it for any follow through.
Well, yeah. Listen, I talked about DraftKings last week. I said it's an earnings winner. I mean, who would not want to be on DraftKings? The stock gained over 9%. Analysts raved over the earnings. I mean, listen, they did post strong growth and guided for profitability in 2024. I mean, I commented on that last week. I mean, who the hell would not want to be in this stock when the revenue was up 81% in the fourth quarter, $855 million? Hello, like it's a growth stock. And, they're in the, to begin the year, they've been live with mobile sports betting in 20 states, which, by the way, represents 42% of the United States population following the launch of their online sportsbook product in Maryland and in Ohio that took place in Jan 1. And, the CEO, he said, moving into 2023, we're going to continue to drive revenue growth. We're going to focus on our expense management. We've taken action that's resulted in an increase in our revenue guidance and significant improvement in our adjusted EBITDA. So, if they're going to adjust the guidance, raising the guidance to a range of 2.85 billion to 3.05 billion versus the prior guidance of 2.8, you know what? That is fantastic news. So to me, that's like golden words from the CEO's mouth. And that should tell you, get in the damn trade, like consider it for your account. So not surprised to see the upgrade at all. So yeah, loving DraftKings, really nice.
So you're expecting, I don't know if you're able to, but are you expecting like more upside today? It's down. Is this an opportunity for today? Is the day trade with the stock down 1.6?
Well, so for day trade, so really I'm going to tell you something. Okay, so from my experience trading DraftKings, it's not a stock that rips and runs the whole day. It's not like a Tesla. It's not like Meta. It's not like Netflix. It's a swing trade. You cannot, DraftKings is tough to day trade. If you take DraftKings, you have to do a swing trade. You should be going into like a monthly contract. Weeklies may not work out for you. You could pick, let's say, a DraftKings $20 contract, let's say expiring this week, and the stock moves 50 cents the whole week. You have to go into a monthly. This moves very flippin' slow.
Got it. All right.
Now I could be wrong and the thing rips, but honestly, I don't want to babysit DraftKings. And first of all, this chart's gorgeous. Why the hell would I not want to be in a monthly contract is beyond me. But I have been in DraftKings for over a month.
I love your conviction. That's awesome. I love it. All right. Meta, you got some thoughts on that?
Well, we had some news on Meta, right?
Yep.
And so I did talk about Meta last night. That was one of my picks. I think you were thinking the same thing. You were liking it too.
On my radar.
So on the show with Gavin there. Yep. So we did, Meta did have their the news there, and they want a Tencent reportedly in talks with Meta to sell their Quest virtual reality headset in China. They're also launching, I talked about yesterday, the subscription service for Instagram, Facebook. So, Meta to be on watch. Meta is a good one. It'll get really nice eventually if it can get over 188.75. So Meta has a lot of work to do. I do have it on my watch list for today on Meta. If it can get over, let me see what Meta's trading at right now. If it can get over 175.59, Meta looks really good for a day trade. But cool. Very tight stop loss on Meta under 174.50, no good. So I don't want to see it going under 174.50. So, Meta, if I day trade it, that stop loss is very, very, very tight, like less than $1. Not giving it much breathing room here.
I love your commentary.
But my top watch today is Netflix. I'll be long on Netflix. Yeah. Top watch Netflix for me. Yeah.
Tell us about it.
I just like the action. It's just really price action because there is no catalyst here.
You got to tell me what you see. I see the stock down 2 days in a row. What's interesting?
No, it broke resistance over 343 from a previous resistance to the upside on Netflix. So it does. I also saw something that the TV usage has ticked up. It's still streaming top in class, Netflix streaming, but that's not what's driving this right now. I think, for me, the resistance broke. 343 was a resistance I had on Netflix. It did break it. So because it broke 343, I'm going to look to trade Netflix today. But my stop loss, again, very tight. Okay. So I'm not too sure if I'm going to trade this because if it breaks below 343, it may not look too pretty. And I'm kind of like right on thin ice here on 343. So I may have to give it a little 50 cent breather. Netflix is crazy too. It can pop and drop like $4 or $5. But Netflix, I like it. I mean, if it does hold 343, which it looks like it may want to hold, could go to 345, 350. So there's room here. So I like where there's excitement, but very cautious on Netflix because it's one of those that pop and drop $1.
Sounds good. Let me just bother you. If you 1 minute opinion, I know it's late on any of these defense names, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman. You heard on Spaces last night, there are a few people interested because of what's happening in Russia, and you see what's happening this morning. It's a big dollar value stock. Is there more room left in any of these names today?
Lockheed Martin is a good swing trade. Has earnings, I think, coming up soon. But I'm not interested in trading LMT, and I'd rather trade Boeing. So
Boeing.
Boeing, I like it over 209.23. So I'll trade Boeing instead.
Okay.
Lockheed Martin's like too expensive. So
got it. All right.
I'd rather trade Boeing.
Netflix. We got Netflix, Meta, and DraftKings really probably on the top of your watch list today, sounds like.
Well, DraftKings, I'm already in it. So it's a swing trade. So it's not a day trade. There's a story behind it, earnings winner, guidance winner. Who the hell wouldn't want to be in that?
Love it.
If they like it. Listen, do your own due diligence, right? Don't listen to what we say. We're just giving our personal thoughts, but do your own due diligence and you decide if you like to take it or not.
Sounds good. Vegas.
We're not recommending anything. Yeah.
All right. Have a great day. You guys can follow Vegas at I Love Stocks One on Twitter. And also you can get our free app now at storytrading.com/app to tune into these pre-market shows. Good
Okay,
luck,
Ben,
Vegas.
love the energy today. Let's go. See you later.
Have a great day.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.